whether or not my product is a product they can buy or whether or not I'm selling a service. They're in the market, they have some relevant interest, but they're not yet ready to buy. Okay. Then you've got even lower in the funnel than that. You've got people that are ready to buy, but they're not convinced they need to buy right now. And then the very bottom of the funnel, you've got people that are ready to buy and they want to buy now. So what we've found from our research is usually about 3% of your entire addressable market is ready to buy now. 3%. So if I show an ad to 100 people that are like my relevant audience, so if my audience is like is women between the ages of 20 and 40 with an income of over $100,000 that are stay-at-home moms. If that's my audience, if I show an ad to any woman between the age of 20 and 40, 3% of them are ready to buy right now.
Do you want to earn more? Work less and enjoy what you do each day. It's no secret, it can be done. This podcast with Dr. T will not only educate and inspire you, it will also teach you how to do more and be more with the time you already have. It will be like a shot of adrenaline straight into the heart of your business. Here is your host, Tyson Franklin.
Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of It's No Secret with Dr. T. Now, a couple of weeks back on episode 134, I had Chris Dayley on, and we were talking about A/B website testing. And I was talking about splitting different pages and doing different tests to see what landing pages were working best. Now, towards the end of that conversation, I said to Chris, I'd read a blog article that was titled 76% of Google and Facebook ads don't work. And I wanted to talk more about it, but we sort of ran out of time. So I got him to come back on, and this is what we basically spoke about, is why 76% of Google and Facebook ads do not work. So we just dove straight into it, and our conversation opens with Chris starting to answer that particular question. Sit back and enjoy.
Well, first I'll start with part of the problem, because part of the problem is the way that most companies approach marketing in general. One of the first goals when businesses have a website and they want to send traffic to it, the fastest way to start getting traffic to your site is through doing Google and Facebook ads, right? So that's usually one of the first marketing initiatives that any company with a digital presence will bring on. And the challenge is, one of the first things you try to do when you're running Google and Facebook ads is just get traffic to your site. So it's a numbers game. You're trying to get a lot of clicks.
Yeah.
Because you don't yet have enough data to base your decisions on conversions, right? So if you're an e-commerce company, you're trying to drive sales. If you're a lead generation company, you're trying to drive leads. But early on in the process, you're just trying to get traffic, right? And so the challenge that most businesses have is they get stuck in the traffic phase. And the CEO gets it in his mind that, we need to be focusing on amount of traffic. We need to be focusing on click-through rates and cost per click and all these, super, super top of the funnel metrics.
Yeah.
And then most businesses don't mature beyond that. So they're just driving clicks, they're driving traffic, and they just increase their budgets more and more and more and more without actually figuring out, are we figuring out the right traffic? Are we getting the right traffic to the site? Are we getting, should we actually decrease our budget? Or should we focus on areas? Are we being efficient, right? Efficiency is part of the challenge that I mentioned with ad budgets being wasted, because we're just trying to grow our PPC accounts as large as we can. So phase one is we drive a ton of traffic. Phase two is, okay, we're trying to be more efficient. And so, and this is, I would say, where the vast majority of companies is companies are not just focused on traffic, they're focused on a combination of clicks and conversions. So I want to get a lot of people to my site and I want to make sure that they're converting. And so usually whoever's managing the PPC budgets, whether it's an agency or whether it's an in-house person,
because that's what I was going to ask. Who's at fault? Is it the owner of the business? So say, for example, I was talking to a dentist, and recently I was talking to a dentist, and they were spending like $4,500 on AdWords per month. And I've heard of people spending more. Is it the fault of the dentist, or is it the fault of the agency that is selling them the AdWords?
Well, the answer to me is yes, on both accounts.
Yeah.
And I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. But the short answer is, if you own a business, I mean, it's ultimately your responsibility to make sure that you have set proper expectations, that you are asking the right questions, and that you're, that you have the right expectations of people that are working for you. So if you have an agency that's working for you, it's your responsibility as the owner to make sure that you've communicated clearly what you want. And hopefully what you want is a good cost per conversion, right? And if that's what you're focusing on, and if that's what you're holding your agency or your in-house person accountable to, then they should be focusing on the right things. Now, so that's the first piece. The second piece is whoever is the agency or the in-house person, the expert, they need to be focusing on the right things. Like sometimes business owners just don't know what questions to ask, right? And so that's why they're coming to work with experts. I would say it's equal. It's both people's responsibility to make sure that they're focused on the right things. And so going back to the kind of that second phase, you get out of the first phase where it's like, okay, I don't just care about traffic. I want traffic and conversions. A lot of what happens is like really high level optimization. So it's like, oh, well, this, if you're familiar with Google AdWords, you might pause an entire campaign inside of Google AdWords and say, well, that campaign isn't converting well.
Yeah.
But then I've got this other campaign over here, or I've got this other group of keywords that's converting relatively well. So I'll just let those run. And maybe I'll even test some ads in there, but usually that's where the optimization stops. And so there's a third phase that businesses need to get to that I would say the vast majority of companies that I've talked to don't ever get to this third phase. And the third phase is you have spent time diving deeply into your campaigns. So you not only understand what campaign is working, you not only understand what keyword is working, you understand things like, are there specific locations that I should be targeting? I mean, I can't even tell you how many accounts we will sit down and audit that are US based companies marketing to US people that are showing their ads in Mexico and Afghanistan and Japan and China that are getting clicks in those areas that they don't even service.
Yeah, no, right? I've seen that.
Yeah, you're wasting a ton of money on an audience that isn't relevant to you, that's never going to convert because they're not your target audience. And so those are other areas where, you're wasting a ton of money, you're spending money on stuff that doesn't work. And the other area that most businesses never focus on that can set you miles ahead of your competition is dedicating part of your ad budget every month to testing new stuff, to exploring, trying new keywords, new audiences in Facebook, trying new ads, new ad copy, new ad designs. We have a tendency as marketers, as business owners, to find something that works and just stick with it.
Yeah.
And we're missing a ton of opportunity, a ton of potential opportunity by not trying new things.
So how does a business, someone that's set up a new business, and this whole AdWords and Facebook campaigns, so the whole thing's new to them. So they're taking the advice of an agency on what should be done best. How do they know if that agency is doing the right thing for them? Because I've heard a lot of horror. I've heard, where people are only spending $500 a month on AdWords, and another person say $4,000 or $5,000 a month, and both of them will complain they're not getting any return on the money. They're talking to the agency and they can't really give them any hard, cold, some facts. And then some of those people will go, we've cancelled it, and 3 months later we can't tell any difference, so we don't know whether we should ever do it again.
Yeah.
So how do they know the agency's doing the right thing for them?
Yeah, and that is really hard, especially if you don't have expertise in the area, which again, you probably wouldn't be hiring an agency if you had expertise.
Yeah.
But one of the first things that we try to do with our clients that I think every business owner should do is, before you even start marketing, before you even start spending money on marketing, you need to understand, what can I afford to pay for a conversion? So if I am a lead generation business and my average deal size is $1,000.
Yeah.
Am I willing to pay $1,000 to acquire a $1,000 deal? Am I willing to pay $500 per deal? And so I first figure out, how much am I willing to pay for a conversion? Same thing on e-commerce. If I'm an e-commerce store, and my average order value is $50. How much am I willing to pay to get a $50 order? Like, will I pay $50? Probably not. I might want to pay $10 to get a $50 order. So that's the first thing that you need to understand. What will I pay to get a customer? And then you can start backing into your marketing budget and say, okay, if I'm willing to pay $1,000 to get a new customer, and I know that my sales team closes 10% of our leads, then for that $1,000, I need to get 10 leads, right? So I'm going to need a cost per lead of $100 per lead, because if I get 10 leads, that'll cost me $1,000, and I should on average close at least one of them. So now that I know I can spend $100 per lead, now I can back into the next realm. How much traffic do I need in order to get, in order to get a $100 lead? How much can I spend on my traffic to get a $100 lead? Well, if traffic costs $1 per click, then I need 100 people to my site in order to get, a $100 lead. If I convert, 1% of my leads or whatever. So again, you first start with, what am I willing to pay? You start backing into your budget so that your budget isn't just some arbitrary number, because most businesses set their budgets with just some arbitrary number in mind. It's like $10,000 a month. That sounds like a good marketing budget. Instead of saying, hey, I know how much we're willing to pay to get a customer. So with $10,000, we can get X number of customers per month. And then all you need to do is hold your marketing agency or your in-house person accountable to that cost per acquisition. Right? If you're hitting your target cost per acquisition, if I know that I need to generate $100 cost per lead, if they're doing that, then that's great. If they're not doing that, then I need to start asking them some really hard questions and saying, well, what's happening? And then they might give me some strategy, and I need to hold them accountable to that strategy. Like, this is something that I think a lot of people really struggle with. I know I, as a business owner, have struggled with just holding people accountable.
Oh yeah. I think we all do that. Somebody's doing something for you, and you go, oh, they're telling me they're doing it, so therefore it must be getting done, but it doesn't mean it is.
Yeah. Well, and most of the time, this is how I usually have operated. Is I feel frustrated because it just doesn't seem like it's working out.
Yeah.
I don't ask really uncomfortable questions, because it seems like it would be just easier to cancel than dive in and try to have these uncomfortable conversations. So I'll just cancel and say, well, I'll just put this on the shelf. I'll worry about it later. And then I never worried about it again until the next time I talk to a business owner that's like, hey, I'm crushing it on Google. And it's like, oh crap, I forgot about that. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's like, whoever the business owner or marketing manager, marketing director needs to be willing to have those uncomfortable conversations, address those things straight up, and then don't just give up on the entire initiative. Be willing to, move to a different agency, hire somebody different, test a different approach, because each marketing expert is going to have a different approach at how they're thinking about marketing in general. So, you've got to be willing to, again, test things out, try things out. If one approach isn't working, don't give up on the marketing medium altogether. Try a different approach, move to somebody else or whatever. And hold them accountable.
Okay, so what you're saying is AdWords work, but you've got to go through those phases. You've got to know what your budget is, what your acquisition cost is. And once you know that, if the agency you've chosen is not being accountable, you're asking them for information, they're not giving it to you. You don't say just throw out the strategy. It's change agencies, go and find someone else.
Yes.
Because something that happened not too long ago. I was at a coffee. It was a networking event, and anyway, there's a young guy there, and I said to him, "Oh, by the way, what do you do?" He says, "Oh, I do, AdWords and Facebook. I'm a social media advertising expert." Well, okay. Well, you arrived on a skateboard, and you're about 22, so okay. And I said, "So how long have you been doing that for?" He said, "Well, to be honest, I've only been doing it about 3 weeks. I have no idea what I'm doing." But I'm reading a lot of blog articles, and I've got a couple of clients, and I'm actually, he said, don't tell anyone, but I'm using their money to learn how to do this better. But I just thought that to me is the part that scares me about when there's a lot of naive business people that don't, you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And they just hear, I've got to have AdWords, so they Google something, they find someone, or they're recommended by somebody, and they're just not getting the right person. So are there certain questions that they should be asking an agency before they hand over their money?
You bet. So I'll share with you an experience that I had just recently. So a friend of mine introduced me to a contact of his that owned a company, an apparel company. And he said, hey, Chris, I want to introduce these guys over here. They've been using this other marketing agency for a while, and they're just feeling frustrated, right? So, I didn't really know what we're in for. So we go in, sit down and talk to them, and come to find out they've been using another agency for a couple of years, and spending a tremendous amount of money, like $100,000 a month on marketing. And a year later, right, a full year later, they're not getting the returns out of it that they wanted. Not only are they not getting the returns out of it that they want, but they also, like you mentioned, they have no idea what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Right. And so they asked a question to us that I loved, that I think every business should ask. So they said, so what would you do in the first 30 days of our account? Like, tell me, what exactly are you guys going to do to turn things around? How is your approach going to be any different than what's been happening? And if the approach is some minor tweaks here and there, and it's more or less the same, that's probably not the approach that you want to go with.
Yeah.
And as we started talking, what was happening was, and this goes back to the conversation at the beginning, with 70% of ad budgets being wasted. What was happening is this other agency was focusing on the top of the funnel. So if you think about your customer journey as a marketing funnel, the very top of the funnel, you've got like awareness. This is like the kind of stuff that Coca-Cola does, where you're like, you're throwing up billboards and commercials during the Super Bowl, and it's just like, I just want people to know who we are. That's the top of the funnel. Those people are typically not ready to convert, right? You've got so many people in this awareness phase that you could market to, you could spend a lot of money marketing to, that are not going to convert ever. Right.
That makes sense.
Then you kind of start moving down the funnel. The top of the funnel is just awareness. Do people know who we are? And that's what this other marketing agency was focusing on. They were just blasting social media, YouTube, with a bunch of ads that weren't really targeted to convert. It was just trying to build brand awareness, right? Which, if that's your marketing objective, is to build brand awareness, then it's fine to focus on those things, but you have to have a different expectation with brand awareness campaigns. You can't be expecting them to drive a positive ROI, because they never will. So that's the top of the funnel. Then as you start working your way down the funnel, you start getting higher and higher intent people. Okay, so if I have a billboard, and that's very high in the funnel, that's an awareness campaign. Then lower down in the funnel, I have like a blog post, right, on my website. A blog post on my website is probably somebody that is in the industry. They have some kind of relevant interest to what we do, but maybe I'm in the real estate industry and I just wrote an article on 5 ways not to buy a house or whatever.
Yeah.
I could be getting all kinds of people there. Like, they might not be interested in working with me as a realtor. They might just be interested in information, right? But that's a little bit lower down the funnel, because now they're coming to me, they have a need.
And what do you call that stage? Because you said the first one's awareness. What would you call the second phase of the blog?
Yeah, what I would call these people is they're in the market, but they're not ready to buy, right? Okay. So again, whether or not my product is a product they can buy, or whether or not I'm selling a service, they're in the market, they have some relevant interest, but they're not yet ready to buy. Okay. Then you've got even lower in the funnel than that. You've got people that are ready to buy, but they're not convinced they need to buy right now. And then the very bottom of the funnel, you've got people that are ready to buy and they want to buy now. So what we've found from our research is usually about 3% of your entire addressable market is ready to buy now. 3%. So if I show an ad to 100 people that are like my relevant audience, so if my audience is like is women between the ages of 20 and 40 with an income of over $100,000 that are stay-at-home moms.
Yeah.
If that's my audience, if I show an ad to any woman between the age of 20 and 40, 3% of them are ready to buy right now, right? So then the question is, and then you move up one stage higher than that in the funnel. So 3% are ready to buy now. We found that an additional 7% are ready to buy, but they're not wanting to buy right this second. So you usually have about 10% of your overall audience is at the bottom of the funnel.
Okay.
So the reason I bring this up, this goes back to this conversation I was having with this client.
Well, can I just stop you? Can I stop you for one sec?
Please.
Just because when you were talking originally, you were talking about awareness, and you were saying that was sort of like billboards with, "Hey, look at us, we're Coca-Cola. Yeah, you can drink us anytime you want," but not much specifics. Then you're saying there's people that are in the market, and that could be like a blog article they're searching, and then the next two stages of the funnel, you were saying they're ready, but they're not ready right now, and the other ones are ready. And are ready, the 3 and 7%. What are examples of those two things? Like when you went billboard, blog, what two things?
Yeah, right. So and that's the conversation that we started having with this client is, so if we want to drive people to the bottom of the funnel, what do I need to show them? Where do I need to be sending them?
Yes, that's it.
So yes. So there's a couple things there. In the ad copy, it's going to be intent based. So with an awareness campaign, with a billboard, for example, you might just be saying something fluffy, right? Like Coke makes you feel good.
Yes. Okay.
Something like that. Lower in the funnel, you're going to be giving them a much harder offer, like buy a Coke for $1.99, right? And you're going to put something very specific, very tactile, and you're going to try to create some urgency around it. So with a service-based business like we have, like disruptive advertising, we're going to say, stop wasting your advertising budget. Start using your marketing budget efficiently today. That has some urgency where it's like, man, I'm throwing money down the drain right now.
Yeah.
Same thing with Coke. It's like, hey, thirsty, go get a Coke right now. So you want to create some urgency. You want to have a very specific offer. And then you want to take them, instead of taking them to a blog article, and instead of even taking them to your home page, you want to take them to a very hyper relevant, focused landing page experience. It could be a page on your site. So if you're an e-commerce business, you're selling products, you want to send them to a product page. You want to send them as low in the funnel as you can so that they don't have to search around, especially if you're addressing those 7% that are ready to buy, but just not right now.
Yeah.
Those people are the biggest liability for you because they want to buy, but if you don't give them the right site experience, they're not going to buy right now. So you want to send somebody as low in the funnel as you can. So what I typically recommend, and this is, again, a good question to ask of a potential agency. If you're asking, what would you do in the first 30 to 60 days? If their answer is not, we want to focus on the bottom of the funnel. We want to find people that are ready to buy now, and maybe people who are ready to buy but not right now. And we want to focus on driving a huge ROI with those people as soon as possible. That is a great place to start. And then you can start building on that. And so, at the bottom of the funnel, it's not uncommon to see like a 4 or 5x ROI on your ad spend.
Okay.
Meaning, if I spend $1, I get $4 back.
That's always nice.
It's not uncommon at the bottom of the funnel, which is great. Or sometimes we even see like 10x ROIs at the bottom of the funnel. Once you get to the middle of the funnel, the people who are in your market but not necessarily ready to buy, your ROI is typically going to drop to like 1 or 2x ROI, which might be okay if you have the right business model, but you need to understand what the trade-offs are, right? We have a bigger audience that we're now marketing to, and we're going to convert less of them. So I need to understand as a business owner what to expect. And then I need to be making sure that my marketing agency that I'm working with, I need to make sure that they understand what's the difference. What's the difference? How are we going to cut out? Because when you very first start doing PPC on Google or on Facebook, you don't know exactly where your bottom of the funnel audience is. You might have some guesses, but you're going to run 10 different ads on 10 different audiences on Facebook and find that only one of those audiences is really like a bottom of the funnel audience. But you've got to be willing to give some time, invest some money into figuring out where's our bottom of the funnel, how can we drive those people, and what's our ROI.
Okay, so whether you're doing AdWords or a Facebook ad, the goal is eventually to try and drag them to a focused landing page that's really there for a specific reason, not to just to your website and go, so just dragging them to your website's like taking them to a billboard, or dragging them to a blog is, just, they may be in the market. You want to drag them to a specific landing page that's there to convert.
Yeah, and a lot of companies send people to their homepage. It's not the worst thing in the world, but the way that I would compare it is, if I want to go gambling, if you just stick me in the lobby of a casino, there's like 50 options, right? And it's just like, oh my gosh, like I'm paralyzed with options here. But if you stick me in front of a slot machine, and I go, oh, I can do this thing right now, I'm a lot more likely to actually engage and go gambling. Whereas before, there's so many potential distractions. I might never actually spend any money gambling, right? And so similarly, your homepage, it's not the worst thing to send people to your homepage. And there's a very high likelihood that they're going to get distracted and not end up converting, because there's so many steps they need to go through to find the thing that's most relevant to them. So that's what a really good marketer should be able to understand. What is somebody looking for? What do I have to offer? And send them to the right place where I can give the person the thing that they're looking for. And so if you understand that well enough, you should be able to send them to the right page that has the right offer, that speaks their language. And, we talked about on our last episode some of the things that you need to make sure that page has, right? You need to make sure that it has the right value propositions and the right call to action, so that what they are actually looking for and what they see on your site is the same. But again, what I see a lot of marketers doing, and what I see a lot of businesses doing in their PPC accounts, and this is why they're wasting a lot of money, is they're either taking all traffic and sending them to the homepage, or they're taking all traffic and sending them to your sales page. And the problem is, you're sending people from the top of the funnel to your sales page and from the bottom of the funnel to your sales page. And that's not what they need to see, right? If you have somebody that's closer to the top of the funnel, you should be sending them to a blog article or a white paper download or something like that, where it's a soft offer. And so that's where, again, you're sending the wrong person to the wrong page. So it's not surprising that you're not converting people. So that's what a good marketer should do, is figuring out, do we have the right people? Are we sending them to the right place? Do we know what they want?
Okay, that makes sense. So I've got a question for you. AdWords has become very popular, especially in towns where there's a competitive market. So you might have 20 or 30 businesses that are they're pretty much the same. They're never the same. And a lot of them are using AdWords because they want to be noticed at the top when someone's doing a Google search. If somebody's in a small town and there's like 2 competitors, is AdWords really needed, or should they really be concentrating on their website for making sure they've got really good content, so that if somebody's searching for a particular thing in a little town, that you just dominate that first page and therefore get noticed more? Or should they still do AdWords?
Well, my answer to that would be yes, both of them.
Yeah.
And I say that because and almost everybody's in some kind of a competitive industry, but if you have a hyper localized business, you're looking to dominate the local market, and you have one huge competitor or even 10 huge competitors. You need every advantage you can possibly get. So, I mean, in our research, it usually takes about 8 touches before somebody's willing to convert with your brand. Right. So that means they need to be exposed to your brand. They need to see your ad. They need to see your organic search result. They need to see your map listing. They need to click on something and go and see one of your blog articles. And then now that they've come to your site, now you need to remarket to them so that they keep seeing your ads all over the web.
Okay. Is that using the Facebook pixels or one of those type of things?
Yes. So both Google and Facebook have remarketing pixels. So if somebody comes to your website, and this is, again, a huge missed opportunity almost across the boards when we talk to businesses. If you are paying money to get somebody to your website, you better be remarketing to them. And what remarketing is, again, like you just mentioned, is if somebody's come to my website, I can set a cookie on their machine that says they've been to my website. So now keep showing, follow them onto any website they go to and keep showing them ads. My wife actually still doesn't really understand how these ads work. And so she'll come and talk to me probably once a month, and she'll be like, you guys are really good at your job, because I see disruptive advertising ads on every website I go to. Like, you guys are doing amazing. And I'm like, yeah, we're only showing you those ads because you came to our website.
Yeah, it's only when those adult websites start chasing you around. You go, I don't know how they got there. How did that end up on my...
Yeah,
why is that there? Facebook, what are you doing
Right.
to me? I didn't do that.
Exactly. And so that's where remarketing is one of the cheapest forms of advertising you can possibly do, because you've already paid to get someone to your site, and now you only you're going to show them ads everywhere they go, but you're only going to pay when they click on your ad. And so that's a huge must do for every business.
And agencies will set that up for the person if they're using an agency to do the AdWords and Facebook advertising, they'll help set that up for them.
Yeah, and again, those are other good questions to ask. What's the remarketing strategy here? How are we going to remarket to people? Because, going back to the idea of like a funnel,
Yeah.
you've got people at the top of the funnel, you've got people at the middle, you've got people at the bottom. And part of your goal as a business is you want to start helping people move down the funnel. You want to progress people through the funnel. It's the same thing that like a sales team would do. When you're a salesperson, you start out with a bunch of leads. Then you have qualified leads, and then you have opportunities. And then once you have the opportunity, then you have a solutions presentation. But you're trying to take all of your leads and work them down into a close.
Okay.
Right. And so the way that you do that is you're going to talk differently to a new lead than you're going to talk to somebody that you've given a solutions presentation to. Same thing online. You've got people that are maybe in the middle of the funnel, that are in the industry, but they're not necessarily ready to buy yet. You want to market to them. You want to send them to a very low intent offer, like a white paper.
Yeah.
And now that you've got their email address, and now that they've been to your website, now you want to start remarketing to them, and you want to start sending them emails that say, hey, we know that you're in the industry. Here's some things to think about when you're ready to buy. You want to be hitting them so that as soon as they're ready to buy, you're right in front of them. And so that's, again, something that very few companies do really well, is having a very well-defined marketing funnel and making sure that you have offers that are purposely created for each stage of the funnel. Because most businesses just go, well, okay, we want to run an awareness campaign. Where could we send them? Let's send them to the homepage. Sure.
Okay, so the average, like, say I was a business and I was going, okay, I've decided I'm going to do some AdWords, Facebook advertising. I would come to you, Disruptive Marketing, and you would help create those landing pages, or at least talk to me about what type of landing pages we're going to set up. And so you would help set up the remarketing campaign. So when it comes to the AdWords itself, if you've got 20 businesses all fighting for the same market, how do you adapt those words to make my business stand out more than the other person's? Or is it just who's prepared to pay the most for a particular word? Is that how it works?
So it's going to be a combination. It really depends on each market, because if all of your competitors are doing AdWords really well, meaning they have very high quality scores, they've got really relevant pages, they convert really well on their website, then it probably will just be a money game of who's willing to pay the most. But usually, I don't think that we've worked in an industry yet where all of your competitors are doing everything great. Usually, there's some area where you can do something better than your competitors. So, for example, Google has something called a quality score. And a quality score is how Google judges how relevant your website is.
Yeah.
So the higher your quality score is, the less you have to pay to get a click.
How can people find out the quality score?
Yeah, so there's a place that you can go. In fact, you can just Google it. How can I find out my quality score on Google? But there's a place inside of AdWords that will tell you what your quality score is. But what you want to do is you want to figure out, what are my quality scores now? What am I being dinged for, and how can I do a better job of that? A lot of times it's going to be something like, the content on my page isn't super relevant to what's in my ad.
Yeah.
Well, that's a simple fix, right? I can just align those better. And it might even be something like, hey, I need to increase the conversion rates on my site, right? So that now I'm converting more of this traffic that I'm getting. And that's where what we talked about in our last conversation really comes in, like the website optimization.
Yeah.
Figuring out what is it that people want to see when they come here that we're not showing them now. So yeah, you want to look for areas that you can really stand out. So again, it might be having a better quality score than them. It might be having a better ad than them. So this is where you want to make sure that you're spending some of your budget every single month to try new stuff. Like try something innovative. If your competitors are all putting their prices in their ads, try not putting your price in your ad, or put a
Yeah.
better price in your ad, or put a worse price in your ad. I mean, heck, we've shown pricing in our ads before that are higher than our competitors, and we get more clicks and more conversions because people perceive that our service is better.
Well, it's one of those things that someone's got to be the most expensive, so it may as well be you.
Yeah, right. And so but those are the things you want to figure out. So you want to figure out, what are all my competitors doing? What can I try that's different than what they're doing? I can do more. I can do less than what they're doing. I can have specific value propositions that are unique to my business.
Yeah.
Like maybe I have a 30-day, money back guarantee policy, and my competitors don't. Let's try putting that in the ad and see if that generates a bunch of clicks. If it doesn't, then let's try some other things on there. So again, you want to figure out, how can I stand out in this market? You want to research and figure out all of my potential options. I could compete in terms of spending more than them. I could compete in terms of doing a better job than them.
Yeah.
I could compete in terms of showcasing my unique value propositions, or I could compete by just converting more people on my website than they do. And the best approach is doing all of those things.
Okay.
Almost every industry, you can do something better, you can do it more, and you can be more efficient than your competitors
So
are.
you would work with people all around the world. So you're not just stuck purely to Utah. In case
Yes,
anyone's
of
just
course.
tuned in, Chris lives in Utah. If you haven't listened to the first episode, and so you would deal with people all around the world. If somebody was just starting it, they had their own business, it's relatively small, just about to kick off. Would you recommend they contact an agency such as yourself, Disruptive Marketing, and start with a small budget and get it done right? Or would you say do your own research and do it yourself first, and as your budget increases, then use an agency? What would you say?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it kind of depends on what you're wanting to accomplish as a business. So most startups don't typically have enough of a budget to justify hiring an agency.
Yeah.
Um,
But is it like Catch-22? Is it like, but if they put the money into an agency, they'd have a bigger business?
Right, exactly. Right. But so that's where you need to figure out, how much would I be feasibly willing to or able to spend on marketing?
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, marketing is, I wouldn't even call it a necessary evil. It's like a necessary good thing that you need in your business. And so you want to figure out, again, how qualified am I to do it myself?
Yeah.
If I have a ton of marketing expertise, then maybe I should start it myself. We have a lot of businesses that come to us after they've started themselves. They've already started to gain some traction. And then, now it's grown beyond their ability to manage. We have a lot of businesses that come to us in that stage.
So what's the smallest amount that someone would come to you and say, okay, I'm just kicking off, I need your help? Do you have like an intro package that people come in at?
So typically, if you're not willing to spend at least $5,000 a month, then it doesn't make sense to hire an agency, just because if you're not spending more than $5,000 a month, the amount that the agency is going to charge you is going to be such a huge percentage of your spend.
Good
it's
point.
Like, well, you're charging me as much as I'm actually spending on Google.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because a lot of the people in the coaching industry that I'm involved in healthcare, so many of them have got budgets between $500 and about $2,500 is what they're spending per month on AdWords and Facebook advertising. And majority of them are all complaining they're not getting the results that they want. They're not getting information from the agency coming back to them, telling them what they said, am I getting a return on my investment? So you're saying unless you're going to spend $5,000 or more, you're not really getting your bang for your buck.
Yeah, you're not getting bang for your buck, and you're not even going to drive enough traffic at that point to really drive meaningful learnings. And so, I've made recommendations to brand new businesses that literally haven't even sold a product yet.
Yeah.
That if they're not willing to spend at least $5,000 a month in marketing, they probably need to go out and get some investors or something. I mean, they need to figure something out on the financing piece of their business, because if, unless you have marketing expertise yourself, and even then, you're going to need a significant volume of marketing spend to figure out what's going to work. right? What I see a lot of businesses do on AdWords is they'll say, I'll spend $500. They spend $500. They drive 50 clicks to their website, and they go, well, I didn't get any conversions. It wasn't worth anything. And it's like, well, yeah, you only drove 50 people. Like, that's not a very meaningful data set. You also had 10 different ads. So you had, 5 clicks on each ad. Like, that's not a very substantial data set. You need to drive, like, AdWords is a volume game. You've got to figure out where can I afford to spend money? And you can't figure that out until you've gotten enough, spent enough money and driven enough clicks to determine what works and what doesn't.
So somebody who's just kicking off in their own business, and they might have a business where they're only ever going to turn over $200,000 a year. Yeah, they could be a podiatrist that's working by themselves in a small town. They're better just to do it themselves than because they don't have the budget to get an agency to do it properly.
Right. Yes. And I mean, again, if you can afford to pay an agency, I think it's worth the investment, because when you're in the startup stage, you just can't afford to pay somebody the type of salary that you would.
Yeah.
It's like to get an expert in-house. It's extremely expensive. And usually what happens with startups, this is where a lot of our clients come from. They will bring someone on that has expertise in marketing.
Yeah.
But because the business is so small, they also ask that person to do 10 other things. And so that person who is an expert in AdWords only spends like 10% of their time in AdWords. And so they're not even really doing a great job because they just have so many other things to focus on. So that's where, like hiring an agency can be really beneficial to make, because it's like they have to only work on this. Yeah, I can't go bother them.
Yeah, so you've got your agency. So somebody might come into an agency like yourself, and that person I was talking to at that coffee meeting who said, oh, I do social media marketing. So they're a one-person operation. So they're not really an agency. They're just an advertising person. What sort of questions should people be asking them to weed out the duds?
Yeah, and that honestly is almost a whole conversation in and of itself, because
Sorry.
No, I mean, these are great questions, and it's something that frankly we are still working on perfecting, because figuring out whether or not the person you're talking to has expertise or has the potential to be an expert in your space is much more challenging than you might believe, because there's a lot of very good salespeople out there that can make themselves look really good, but don't actually have a great foundation. There's also experts. I mean, this is when I first started my business, I was an expert that had no clue how to sell. Like I couldn't sell myself to save my life, because I had never done sales before. And so that's the other thing too, is like, you might be talking to somebody that really knows their stuff and they just have terrible salesmanship skills.
Yeah.
And so that's why you what you want to do is you want to figure out some of those fundamental questions. Ask them what they're going to do in their first 30 days. Ask them what their remarketing strategy is. Ask them how do they progress people down the funnel. Ask them just some of those questions. You don't even have to know what they're talking about when they answer the question. But if they have a response, if they have a detailed strategic approach, then it might be worth trying their approach out. Now, if they answer your question and they go, remarketing, I don't really do that. I mean, which most people probably won't do, but if they do say that, then it's like, okay, well, I can weed that person out immediately.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, but you've got to get educated to a certain level so that you can ask some basic questions and then ask them to send you regular reports.
Because there's so many people I bump into who are saying, I pay $550 a month. I go, what's that for? Oh, it's for my AdWords and SEO.
And I don't even know what they're doing. Right.
Yeah. And I go, so what are they doing for it? Oh, they're doing my SEO and my AdWords. And I go, yeah, but specifically, what does that mean? When you talk to them, when they say they're doing your SEO, what are they specifically doing? Oh, just my SEO. And you go, okay. So I think there's a lot of people out there who are paying, some paying a small amount of money per month on a regular basis, and they're not really getting much back for it at all. And there's probably others that, they probably are getting great returns.
Well, and this is going back to what we talked about at the very beginning: expectations and accountability. Like, if you're going to pay money to somebody, you've got to be willing to hold them accountable. You need to you need to be talking to them at a minimum on a monthly basis, like at least on the phone, as well as getting reports sent to you of what did you actually do this month? What are the changes? What are you planning on doing for the next 30 days? I know that most business owners are super busy, and it is worth your time. If you're going to spend $5,000 a month or more on marketing, it's worth your time to make sure that person is actually doing a good job for you. So
yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, you've got to hold them accountable, and you've got to have the right expectations of when am I going to hear from you next?
Okay, so when somebody says they're doing they're working on my SEO, what do they mean by that? Like, I know what they mean by it, but what is it that if somebody was paying somebody, say, $5,000 a month, and they said, oh, they're doing my AdWords and they're working on my SEO, making sure my website is working properly, what is that agency doing on a monthly basis to somebody's website to make it more SEO friendly?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And each of those are going to be specific to the service, right? So if you're doing SEO, which is about getting your website to rank organically, then what I'd be doing is I'd be going on Google saying, what are the major KPIs for SEO? Like what should I be expecting? Just like if I have a direct report and I have and I'm meeting with them on a weekly basis, I'm going to have some specific KPIs that I'm expecting from them.
Yeah.
So for SEO, some of my KPIs are probably going to be, how many articles did you publish for me out there? Which pages on my site did you optimize? What keywords are you targeting, and what content are you producing on my website? Right? Those are some of the questions I'd be asking. For AdWords, I'm going to be asking questions like, how many ads did you test this month? What ads did you design? What were the results of that test, and what are you planning on doing next month? What audiences are you testing? What ad groups are you testing? Those types of things. And same thing on like the conversion rate optimization front. I'm going to be looking at, what tests did you run on my site? What did we learn this month?
Yeah.
So that to me is probably the most critical question. If a marketer can tell you, what did you learn this month? What did we learn this month that's going to make us better next month? If they have a good answer to that, then they probably have a pretty good strategy. If what they learned this month is, well, we're just plugging right along and we're just going to keep doing the same thing, then I would be highly suspicious of the strategy that's taking place, because like I said, you always have competitors out there. They're always doing a better or new job on something. And so if you're not innovating, if you're not testing, if you're not learning, you're going to be falling behind at some point.
That is brilliant advice, especially like, what did we learn that month? Because I know when I was doing all the marketing for my own podiatry clinics, and at the end of every month I'd sit down and I'd reflect on what we did. At the end of every year, we would get every bit of marketing we'd done for the whole year. We had them sitting in all these folders, and we would go through them all and try and figure out, what did we do well, what could we have improved on, what flopped and we thought was actually going to go really great, and what exceeded our expectations, and if we could figure out why that happened, and can we just keep duplicating it. So I think that's great to actually figure out what we learnt each month. But just one last thing on the SEO. So you're saying the agency, if they're looking after your SEO, it's really about, you can ask them, what keywords did you put into which pages? And when they're doing the SEO, they're also writing articles in that for you.
They should be.
Yeah, so if somebody's got a website, it's just sitting and they said, oh, they're doing SEO for me on a monthly basis. And you went, so what have they changed in your website over the last 6 months? If they said, oh, they haven't changed it, I don't know what they've changed. So are they really then doing any SEO on your website, or are they just, I don't know, just taking the money and running?
Exactly. Well, and what we do, because we have an in-house content team, what we do is we're looking at, on a monthly basis, we've got some KPIs. How much traffic did we drive to our content pages?
Yeah.
What was the result of that? How many articles did we publish, and how many articles did we produce? Like those are some high level like KPI metrics that we're looking at, because if we're increasing the amount of traffic, like to our blog, for example, if we're increasing it on average month over month, then we're probably heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
If it's stagnant, if it's going down, if the amount of traffic on our blog is going down, then we're probably not producing the right content or enough content. And so we need to change our strategy there. Similarly, like on the ad front, if you haven't changed your ad budgets in a while, like if you've been using the same ad budget for the last 6 months, unless you've completely maxed out your addressable market, there's probably not anything great happening in your account, because you should either be growing or reducing scope and getting more efficient and then growing. But overall, your goal should be continuing to grow and looking for new opportunities and expanding. And so anytime you get at like a status quo type level with an agency, that's the time where you either need to dig in really deep and make sure you know that what they're doing is valuable,
Yeah.
or say it's probably time to change agencies.
Okay, so when somebody's charging $1,000 a month and they've been doing that for 3 years and nothing's changed and they're not really giving you any information back, they may not be doing the work that they should be doing. They could just be they're like on a gravy train. They're just letting the money come in. They just do a minimal amount of work for it. No one's complaining, so we'll just keep taking the money.
And I would say the vast majority of agencies. So when we go and start working with clients that had been working with another agency before us, the vast majority of the cases are what you just described. They haven't touched the account in months, or the last account, change that they made was a very, very minor change. And so that happens a lot. And so it's definitely something to keep your eyes open to.
So it's not unreasonable for a client to say to their agency, show me what you did last month. You said you're doing the SEO. Show me the web pages, what they look like beforehand, what they look like afterwards. Show me the Google Analytics from last month to this month. So that's what you're talking about when you're evaluating everything. You're doing that through Google Analytics to see the changes. Is that how you evaluate the traffic?
Yeah, I mean, really, again, depending on what your KPI is. I mean, if you've got an SEO agency and you're saying, show me the content you produced last month. I mean, I'm going to be saying, where is it? Like, what new pages do we have on our site? What new blog articles do we have? What articles did you publish around the web? Where are they?
Oh, that begs a question. So when somebody's doing AdWords for you each month, they should really they're changing it. So it's not just set and forget to give me $500 and I'll just keep putting $500 or a proportion of that into AdWords for you. They should really be looking at the ads, adapting it, changing landing pages, and constantly basically trying to drive traffic to your business, not just set and forget and just keep pushing a button and a certain amount of money goes to AdWords each month.
Because there is no perfect marketing strategy.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a perfect marketing strategy. And so if you don't have a perfect marketing strategy, which you don't, then there are always areas to become more efficient, to expand, to explore, to test. And so if you're not doing that, you could be wasting a ton of money. And like, we mentioned earlier, a large percentage of ad budgets out there are being wasted because companies are just sticking to the status quo. And so again, if you want a huge leg up on your competition, you need to be demanding that whoever is creating and running your ads is constantly innovating, is testing, is trying new things, is exploring new options, is changing the landing page up and figuring out how to make that more efficient. Then once the landing page becomes more efficient, now I can drive new traffic to the site because, I have a wider addressable audience because my conversion rates are better, and so it's this constant back and forth of fine tuning and refining my marketing funnel, my marketing messaging, my marketing, my website, to get better and better over time.
Okay, and are you saying a landing page should be a separate page on your website, or a landing page should be set up in a ClickFunnels type scenario? Which would you say?
It could be either. Again, it depends on your business model. Yeah.
Okay. So
e-commerce sites, it's good to have it as a page on the website. If you are a service-based business, it's usually good to have it in like a ClickFunnels type, or some kind of a standalone landing page type scenario.
So what's the difference between the two? Why would you go one way over another?
So the reason, like for e-commerce businesses, why it makes a lot of sense to have your landing page attached to your website is for cross-sell opportunities, right? It's like, well, I might drive them to this product and they might buy that product, but they also might want to buy some other products too, right? I want to increase my average order value.
Okay.
And so if you want to increase your average order value, you want to make sure that they have the option to look at other pages on your site. Similarly, if you're a service-based business, again, it really depends on if I am a service-based business and I'm a law firm, for example, and I do all different types of lawsuits. Well, I'm probably not going to want to show somebody who's interested in like injury law, like if they're if somebody was searching for an injury attorney, I'm probably not going to want to show them my divorce law option, right, or my business law option. And so I probably don't even want them to see all the rest of my options. So that's where if that particular person, again, this is the marketing of understanding what are they looking for and what do I have and what should I be showing them. If they are looking for one specific solution, I should show them that one specific solution. If what they're looking for is shirts and I sell 50 different shirts, I don't know exactly what shirt I should show them. So I probably want to show them a bunch of different shirt options and let them pick.
Yeah.
So yeah, just really understanding your target customer, what they're looking for and what they might be interested in will determine what page you should send them to.
Okay, and you also don't want to distract them with other information. So if they're coming to your business for, you're a podiatry clinic, they're coming for heel pain, you don't need them to know about laser therapy and other things that you're actually doing for fungal toenails and that type of thing. You want them focused on heel pain. So you could say you could have a separate web page for that that's separate to your website that looks exactly the same, but you're just driving people to that traffic.
Yeah, and you don't need to have your menu. You don't need to have all of your other options. Like, you can have the page just focused on the one thing they came for.
Okay, that's great advice. Well, I think you've answered most of my questions today. Is there anything else you need to add? Oh, where can people get hold of you if they want to contact you for business?
Yeah, so people reach out to me on LinkedIn all the time. I'd love for people to reach out. My name is Chris Dayley. Last name is Dayley. Or if you'd like to just kind of check out what we do, the website is disruptiveadvertising.com. And so people can go there and, if people would like us to audit their accounts and, point out areas that we see some opportunities in, we do that all day, every day.
No, that's fantastic. And as I always ask people, I always have a Monday morning tip. And I've asked you a Monday morning tip on the previous episode, so you're going to come up with another Monday morning tip. Yeah, it's Monday morning. What would you tell someone to do 8:30 when they get to work? What's the number one thing they should do in this particular area?
Yeah, I guess if I am looking to improve my marketing, my tip would be learn something this week that you didn't know last week. That could be learning what the hell PPC marketing is or what Google AdWords is, or that could be I need to change agencies or I need to test new audiences. But learn something this week in regards to your marketing efforts that you didn't know last week.
I think that is an absolute fitting way to finish. And I like that advice. I usually tell people that, if you're the same person at the end of a year as you were at the start of the year and you know nothing new, it was a waste of a year. So you got to get in there and actually
I agree.
Just keep learning new things. So Chris, thank you for being on It's No Secret with Dr. T. This has been fun. It's you've answered a lot of questions that I'm sure anyone that's listening to this now have gone, I didn't know about that, and I think I may be not getting my money's worth from some of the agencies they're using. So hopefully anyone that's listening to this, if you want to contact Chris, contact him on LinkedIn or through Disruptive Advertising. And if you've never used AdWords before, just start checking it out. See if it's of value to you. So Chris, thank you.
Dr. T, thank you for having me on again. It was a pleasure.
Well, I'm not sure where you are while you're listening to this right now, but between doing the recording and doing the editing, I took about 5 pages of notes myself. And a lot of those will be on my website, tysonfranklin.com, if you need to read them. But one of the biggest takeaway points I got from this is if you have an agency that you're using for your AdWords and Facebook advertising, is make sure they're doing what they say. Make sure you're getting, whatever your budget is each month, make sure you're getting value for your budget. And as you can see what Chris Dayley mentioned, there's a lot of things they should be doing for you on a regular basis. And if they cannot answer the basic questions on what they're doing, then maybe it's time to change. So I think that was just brilliant advice. And it explains why 76% of Google and Facebook ads do not work, or they're not getting the desired result that they were after. So my guest next week is Dr. Fern Caslow, or also known as Dr. K. Now, Dr. K has been on the show before. We did an episode called The No Doubt Zone. And in this particular episode, we're talking about branding. So here's a little snippet of what's coming up next week.
Yeah, if you've got your branding right, then many other things are just going to fall in line. Things in terms of your marketing, things in terms of your advertising, the way you present things, the offers that you make, all of these things are going to be much clearer. Even how you scale, if you scale, when you scale, all of those things are going to fall into alignment. You're going to ask different, better questions when your branding is clear. So somebody can be focusing on the marketing, but if your branding is wrong, your marketing is going to be wrong. Your advertising is going to be wrong. Everything is going to be, it's not going to fall into place, and you're going to be struggling to fix the things that you can't fix. It's like fixing a house if the foundation is all cracked.
I'm sure after you listen to Dr. K, you are going to look at branding in a completely different way, because she has such a unique take on what branding is and how you can actually use branding for your personal and business brand. It is really, really worth tuning into. So before I go, I just want to leave you with a quote for the week, or a quote to think about. And it goes like this: don't give up what you want most for what you want right now. Okay, that's it for me. Take care of yourself, look after your family, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye for now.